What's up guys, welcome to another video at Movement Mechanics and welcome to the fourth video of the anatomical journey that we are covering on movement mechanics. In today's video, we are going to understand three muscles. Two of them are posterior chain muscle and one is an anterior muscle. So the anterior muscle we are going to understand in this video is the serratus anterior. And the two of the posterior chain muscles which we are going to understand are the rhomboids, both the rhomboid major and minor and the trapezius. The trapezius muscle has been divided into three aspects. One is the upper traps, the lower traps and the middle traps. So we are going to understand all the three aspects of the trapezius, and also we are going to understand both the rhomboids, the major as well as the minor. So let's dive deep inside this topic and understand some movement mechanics. To start off the video, we are going to understand the serratus anterior first. Now the serratus anterior originates or starts from the ribs 4 to 12 and it ends at the medial border of the scapula, and that is the reason it is called as serratus anterior, because it is at the anterior aspect of the body. That means in the front of your body. Now what is the role of serratus anterior? Now serratus anterior plays a very crucial role when it comes to the scapula. Firstly, it does scapular protraction, that means bringing the scapula forward, and secondly, it does stabilization of the scapula. Now when we are talking about the serratus anterior, the muscle is largely used in protraction. That means whenever a boxer is going to hit a punch, at that time your serratus anterior is going to protract that scapula and is active massively. On the other hand, these were the concentric muscle action of the serratus anterior. Now what would be the eccentric muscle action? Of course, exactly the opposite, which is going to be scapular retraction. Moving forward from the protractor of the scapula, we are going to understand two of the retractors of the scapula. The first is the rhomboid minor. The rhomboid minor originates from C7 and T1 and inserts at the medial border of the scapula, whereas the rhomboid major originates from T2 to T5 and inserts at the medial border of scapula. So here the origination of the rhomboid major and minor is different, whereas the insertion of both the muscle is same, the medial border of the scapula. But what is the muscle action of these muscles? Now both of the muscles are going to do scapular retraction as well as downward rotation of scapula. Now these are the concentric muscle actions of both the rhomboids, whereas the eccentric muscle actions are again going to be opposite. The eccentric muscle action of both the rhomboids would be scapular protraction and upward rotation of scapula. Beginning with the upper trapezius starts from the occipital bone of the skull as well as from the spinous processes of T7. So this is the origin of the upper trapezius, whereas the upper trapezius inserts at the lateral third of the clavicle and the acromion process of the scapula. Moving forward from understanding the origin and insertion of the upper trapezius, let's understand the muscle actions. The upper trapezius has got several muscle actions. Firstly, it does cervical extension. Then it does lateral flexion as well as rotation of the cervical, and finally it does scapular elevation. So these are all the concentric muscle action of the upper trapezius. The eccentric muscle actions would be exactly the opposite. So the eccentric muscle actions would be cervical flexion, lateral flexion and rotation, and depression of the scapula. Moving down from the upper trapezius to the middle trapezius originates from the spinous process of T1 to T5 and inserts at the superior aspect of the spine of scapula and the acromion process of the scapula. So the middle traps does primarily only scapular retraction. This is the concentric muscle action, whereas the eccentric muscle action would be scapular protraction. Now moving forward from the middle trap, we are going to understand the lower traps. So the origin of the lower traps is very easy. The lower trap starts or originates from the spinous process of T6 to T12 and it inserts at the spine of scapula. So what is the muscle action of lower traps? So the lower traps concentrically does scapular depression and eccentrically it will do a scapular upward rotation. Moving forward from the vigorous process of understanding the anatomy of the trapezius, the rhomboids and the serratus anterior, let's understand that one exercise which is going to train your serratus anterior, one exercise for your rhomboids and one exercise for your trapezius. Now the traps have been divided into three parts, the upper, the lower and the middle, and hence there would be different exercises for different traps because they all do different functions. Now if you want to train the serratus anterior, I personally prefer a lying kettlebell punch. Now this lying kettlebell punch is going to isolate that serratus anterior and train it magnificently. I love this exercise. It's a game changer for training your serratus anterior because it mimics the scapular protraction and hence it engages the serratus anterior perfectly and trains it beautifully. Now moving forward from the serratus anterior, let's talk about the rhomboids. Now both of the rhomboids have got same muscle action, only their origin is different. So doing a cable or a banded pullback would be the best exercise for training your rhomboids because it is going to do that scapular retraction and hence it is going to engage those rhomboids. Now the cable pullback is not only good for your rhomboids but also the best exercise for training your middle traps because the middle traps also do scapular retraction and hence if you want to train scapular retraction, the rhomboids and the middle traps are going to work in harmony and that one exercise which is the cable pullback is going to train both of the muscles. And now if you want to train the upper traps, you must primarily train scapular elevation and not lateral flexion and rotation and cervical extension because those are not the primary muscle action of the traps. From a sporting or performance enhancement perspective, you need to understand the primary goal of the upper traps, which is scapular elevation. So if you want to train the upper traps, the best exercise to do is simply a barbell or a dumbbell shrug. Now the dumbbell shrug or a barbell shrug is going to mimic that upward rotation or the elevation of the scapula and hence it is going to target those upper traps. Lastly, for your lower traps, the best exercise would be lying Ys. Now the lying Ys are going to help you train the lower traps because it is going to mimic that depression of the scapula and hence that lower traps is going to get engaged and you are going to get benefits out of doing a lying Ys. Now generally when you are going to do scapular stabilization work, you normally do an exercise called as IYT. At that time that Y position is going to train your lower traps. I hope you guys have understood the origin, insertion and the muscle actions of serratus anterior, the rhomboids and the trapezius muscle group, and also love those exercises which I've covered for each and every muscle group. So if you have loved this video, make sure to like, to share, to subscribe as well as the notification bell icon so that you never miss a video whenever I'm uploading a new one. Also if you have got any doubts and comments regarding this video or any other video suggestions which you want me to cover in the future, make sure to drop that in the comment section. And most importantly, if you want to deep dive into anatomy and look at the human body from a doctor's perspective, make sure you check out VB Anatomy Academy. Till then, see you in the next one.